Hey everybody, welcome back to Breakfast with Bob from the Challenge Championship and Collins Cup. We're brought to you by Master Spas, Hyperice, Form Smart Swim Goggles, UCAN, HOKA, One, Clash USA, and of course our Challenged Athletes Foundation. Our next guest, he is the four-time Escape from Alcatraz champion, 2016 Olympian, Mr. Ben Kanute. Benny, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
More importantly, how's your little one?
Oh, she's doing great. Thanks. Yeah, they're not here with me this time in Slovakia, but they're holding down the fort at home.
Yeah. Is it changed in terms of, when you come back from workout, a lot of times it's like, I had a crappy workout. But when you come home to the little one, she doesn't care, right? It just makes it better.
Yeah. I did a podcast, I think, with Patrick Nielsen, and he was kind of saying the same thing, that when you're away, you kind of make the most of your time. You want to make sure that you put in the effort and that you don't kind of waste any time away from them. And then when you come home, they're there and you want to make the most of that time too. And you almost get a little bit more energy kind of hanging around with them. And,
exactly.
I think you find the second gear as a parent, and things that I didn't think I was able to do, like sometimes push through some tiredness, like you kind of find that second gear to be able to do it.
And the great thing about having a little one around the house and having the job that you have, you're sort of available when you're not training, right? I mean, obviously it's a full-time gig, but you're not driving off somewhere every day to go to a job.
Exactly. Yeah. Courtney and I are very lucky that we have these flexible schedules, and I'm able to be there for Briella and not have to leave for, an extended period every day. There's definitely those times where I'm training, where I'm gone for a bit or on trips like this, but I get a lot of extra time with her, which is awesome to see, because I feel like there's stuff that's changing almost by the hour.
Exactly. So you just coming off of your fourth win at Escape from Alcatraz. What is it about that event that obviously suits you so well?
I think it's just the fact that it's non-traditional. It's just a tough course overall. I love the history behind it, and I like the fact that you never really know how the swim's going to be until you're on the boat looking at the water. The conditions of the roads can kind of change from year to year, and it's one of those races where you have to stay focused the entire time, because every 5 minutes it's changing up on you. So if you let your focus down, then the race can kind of get away from you. So I think that all those things kind of suit me in the race. And
this year particularly, it was chop, there was fog, and with people who haven't been there before, the great thing about Alcatraz is all three parts of it are signature, right? A lot of races, they'll have a cool bike ride and run, and the swim is just sort of like in a little pond somewhere. But this, you're jumping off a boat at Alcatraz, swimming back in. There's no buoys out there. You basically have to sight on the land, and the current and with the swell, watching where you're going is a nightmare. The bike ride is short, but it's up, down, curvy. Roads are crap in a lot of places. And then the run, you're on sand, you're on the sand ladder, you're on trails. Just talk a little about how hip it is to be doing a race like that.
Yeah, I mean, we were thinking that the days before the race, the conditions weren't going to be super challenging. Kind of the water report was that, it was going to be slack tide, maybe a gentle push out to the bridge. And then on the boat, the race director was telling me, like, the current's pushing hard, and with the wind, you could see the safety personnel like moving backwards. So it was pushing away from the beach, away from where we wanted to go. And the swell wasn't like super big, but like the chop from the wind made it really challenging to find a rhythm. And just between the way the current was going with the wind, made it one of the harder swims that I've had at Alcatraz in the 5 years that I've done it. From there, like you were saying, the bike course is super punchy, but I've just kind of broken the course down over the years into like small sections. So you just kind of work through it, and there's a few opportunities to kind of recover and get back into it. But it's just one of those races where you're just kind of going all out, and it's a interesting mix of like high end effort and just strength overall. And
you dig those races because you also like New York, right? Because you swim normally. I mean, every once in a while, they actually do have the swim in the Hudson, which is cool. And then you're riding West Side Highway, and then you're running Central Park. Again, three pretty cool signature parts of that race.
Yeah, definitely. I think all of those races too, they have a lot of history and they're just challenging overall. So I kind of like it. The harder it is, kind of the better for me.
So when we look at the breakdown here of our teams, and we have you, Daniel Baekkegard, and Max Neumann. Have you raced? You've raced Daniel, I'm sure.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to really race against him. I think in the past couple of years, I've maybe had 1 or 2 races here, but I think when we've matched up, it's either been me who kind of hasn't had the best race or maybe one of them. So we haven't really gone toe-to-toe with all of us firing on all cylinders. So I think this weekend is going to be real interesting.
It's going to be really fun. And when you saw that matchup, were you pretty excited about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of the races that could potentially be close for the entire time. I know that we all swim relatively similar.
Yeah, Daniel was a top-level swimmer growing up too.
Yeah, and then the cycling ability, I don't think that any one of us is that much stronger than the other one where we're going to really pull away on the bike.
Yeah.
And so it could come down to kind of shoulder-to-shoulder running through the 18K.
So when you look at the match, not just the matchups, but the team with Frodeno and Gustav Iden and Sebastian Kienle and Daniel Baekkegard, Patrick Lange, and Joe Skipper, the Europeans are like, we're going to sweep. And then that's not even including Daniela Reef and Lucy Charles Barkley and Annie Hogg. But when I look at the U.S. team, I think you guys have a good squad, and I love the late additions of Taylor Knibb and Katie Zafaris, who are coming in as rookies, but they're also coming off of the Olympics and Olympic success.
I think that the U.S. team is super strong. Obviously, I think on paper, everybody likes how Europe looks, but the race isn't won on paper, and I think that we have a lot to prove. So that's always kind of a dangerous combo, especially when people get a little confident. So I think we'll give them a good run for their money. And the racing, I think the pair-ups all are going to make for some exciting racing, and it's going to come down to the wire.
So after this, does the focus become St. George for 70.3 Worlds?
Yeah, and that's just a few weeks away. So it's basically traveling back home, regrouping, and getting ready to race hard again.
Okay, and Jim Vance still coaching.
Yes.
And how have you guys have worked together for so long, and how have things changed? Because you were one of the few guys who was doing ITU and WTS races, and at the same time, and the mixed relay, and at the same time, going off and finishing second at 70.3 Worlds, trying to balance both of those, draft legal, short distance, high intensity sprint, 70.3. How did you guys balance all that?
So I think the training kind of plays off of each other. You can work on your leg speed and your strength at the same time, and the extra leg speed comes in handy when you're racing the half Ironman, and then the strength comes in handy when you're trying to go all out for 20 minutes and try and sustain that. But where the challenge really came in, I think, was structuring the season and some of the uncertainty that comes with racing in ITU and dealing with national governing bodies and
all that
especially the last 5 years. I was going mainly for the relay, and so without focusing as much on the individual, it made opportunities for starts a little bit more unsure.
Sure.
So now it's going to be nice to be able to have kind of more of a structured plan, and we'll be able to plan a little bit better to apply the training that we've been doing to specific key races.
So when I look back at the Trimaniacs from Chicago, wasn't it you guys the Trimaniacs?
Yeah, the Multisport Madness kids. Yeah.
You Lucas Verzbikas, Ben Kanute, Kev McDowell. It's amazing the talent that has come out of there. And obviously you wanted to be at the Olympics, but watching Kevin race the way he raced, you had to be pretty proud.
Yeah, I mean, it's great for the sport, and Kevin's worked a long time to be able to get to that position, and I think that it was great to watch the U.S. bring home medals in multiple events there, and especially in a sport that we should be dominating. We should be one of the main players in there, so it was good to always see a U.S. team medal. And this year was the inaugural mixed relay, and obviously you've had great success as a mixed relay guy. And for the first time, I've had people tell me I didn't know you can do a triathlon that was 300-yard swim and 4.5-mile bike ride and a 1-mile swim. Don't you have to go half Ironman and full Ironman? I thought that was a great showcase for the fact that you can be a triathlete
and you don't have to be out there for 6 hours.
Yeah, I've loved the mixed relay from the very beginning when it was introduced, and have loved racing it.
Yes.
And it's great to see it on, live television on the Olympics. And, it's stuff like that, the innovative side of the sport, and finding different ways to showcase it that are going to make it much more popular and more fun to watch.
Right. And speaking of fun to watch, you were down at Daytona. I think your little one was born either the day before you raced or the day after, right around that.
Yeah, right on that weekend.
And then you got third at Miami.
Yeah.
Right? At that style of racing. So if there's any positive that comes out of this whole COVID thing, with new race series like that, plus the advent of the mixed relay in the Olympics, plus what's happening here with, and I think this is a piece of history, being able to race in the inaugural Collins Cup. We're going to be looking back at this 10 years from now and going, that I remember the first one when people thought this would never happen, and now it's happening. Looking at all the, like you said, innovations that you've seen over this last year and a half during COVID, you pretty excited about the future of the sport?
Yeah, I mean, there have been a lot of times where people have found some new and exciting formats and have introduced things into the sport. But I think really in the last year and a half, we've had some really good ideas come into fruition and have really started at the beginning for some long-term plans, which I think is exciting.
That's the important part.
Yeah,
not just a, we loved Island House, it was great, but it probably wasn't sustainable. It wasn't sustainable. Right. Where this, it seems like it's growing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think those one-off events are great, but having something like this that's established and has a plan and is made for TV is what's going to kind of grab that larger audience and bring them in. And I think that people in the sport of triathlon know how great the sport actually is. Right. And now it's just finding those people who've never heard of a triathlon before and showcasing the different events we have and the different athletes.
So when you look at the different matchups, is there, besides your own, is there another matchup that you're excited to see how it turns out?
I mean, I think the captains in the race, they got some really good picks here. So
I think the matchups are amazing.
They're fantastic. I mean, you look through all 12 races, and it's not easy to pick a winner from each one.
Nope.
So I think that the points are going to bounce back and forth all day as we watch the racing unfold. And honestly, I don't really have a favorite right now for which one. If I was watching the race, I think that maybe in certain races there are going to be key moments that happen at different times, like maybe in the Kienle Sanders Starkowitz, you're looking for maybe bike passes somewhere, someone leading from the front, and same thing with the Frodeno and Long, like trying to catch the front, but. Overall, it's going to be fun to watch the different dynamics, and I think you'll kind of see how different a race can play out over 12 races.
Really fun. Yeah, this is it's going to be pretty special. How cool would it be for the U.S. to come home with this thing?
Oh, it'd be amazing. I mean, we come to win, so that's what we're going to try and do. So I think the Collins Cup has some strong roots in the U.S., so it'd be nice to bring that home.
And you're one of those guys who's been, in the sport for a long time and has seen the metamorphosis. I mean, you look at how fast people are riding the bike now. That's been, if you look back in the day, our Iron War race, Dave Scott, Mark Allen, they swam about 50 minutes. They ran about, 240, 241. That's not that different, but you got a Cam Worth going 402 rather than, the days of hopefully getting to 430. Talk a little bit about how the bike has changed, and you as a guy coming from ITU and then moving to 70.3 has to adapt to that.
Yeah, there's I think technology has a little bit of a role in that, but really in the past 3 or 4 years, I think we've seen a big surge, and it's guys like Jan Frodeno who keep raising the bar. And I mean, you could go on a list. There's tons of them who every year, every week are setting the bar for new standards in the sport. And it's gotten to the point where, people aren't trying to keep up. They're trying to push that barrier. And I think that there's just a lot of talented guys and girls right now who are racing out there and racing hard. So I think maybe 10, 15 years ago, you'd see guys with maybe glaring weaknesses still dominating, but now it's definitely a true triathlon. You have to be a solid swim, bike, runner to win championships. And it's exciting to see. It makes things interesting, and you're never quite sure who's going to win on the day because everybody is pushing themselves super hard. So I think that, it makes for a really exciting time in the sport. And with events like this, plus the guys and girls that are here, like, it's gonna be really fun.
Love it. Ben, as always, thanks so much for taking so much time.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
All right. Ben Kanute has been our guest again. Breakfast with Bob from the Challenge Championship and Collins Cup. Hold on. We will be right back.